What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and today we're going to be taking a look at Pulsar Lost Colony, which is a game by Leafy Games that's described as a cooperative starship simulator. Now this is a game currently in alpha, although I believe it's soon to hit beta. There's a lot of talk of pre-beta patches at the moment that has gone through a Kickstarter process and is now being funded through their website, where you can pick it up for $25, and that will include a DRM-free version and a Steam key. Leafy Games themselves are a relatively small developer. This is going to be their first title, and they only actually have 3 members of staff. They have a programmer, an artist, and a writer. So let's dive in and have a look at what exactly they've come up with so far and where this game could be headed in the future. So in Pulsar, you and up to 4 other people play the role of the crew of a starship on an exploration mission, essentially. You're not necessarily given a huge amount of guidance as to what exactly it is you're supposed to be doing, other than here is a huge universe to explore, and in this universe you will find both missions and all sorts of stuff to go and explore and fight. Although with the added caveat that if at any point your ship is lost or you lose your respawn bay and your crew dies, the game is over and you have to start again. It's very much like a roguelike in that respect. As far as the crew is concerned, there are 5 different unique roles you can play, and just going through them briefly, there is a captain, there is a pilot, there is a weapons officer, there is an engineer, and there is a scientist. And each of these roles has very specific tasks that will help the overall survivability of the ship, but cannot be performed by everybody. So to give an example, the pilot is capable of flying the ship and steering the ship in a third-person view, but he is not capable of initiating jump drive procedures, of selecting targets, or of firing the weapons. These responsibilities fall to other members on the ship, and so it's only by working together and cooperating that you end up with a successful mission and a successful voyage. This is compounded by how things respond in combat. Combat is obviously a big part of Pulsar, and once you do get into a fight, things get very hectic very quickly, and communication becomes a very important part of what you're doing. You don't necessarily know that there is a fire in the engineering room, because you are busy flying the ship up front. You don't know that we now need to actually get out of here and execute a jump maneuver without the captain making that call, and then the engineer changing the power settings so that we have power for the jump drive, and the scientist initiating our warp. To help with this, each crew member has a level and a bunch of talents that they can put points in to make them more effective at their specific roles. So, for example, an engineer is capable of making more efficient use of the coolant aboard the ship as he levels up his coolant skills, and that will enable you to have more systems running at once before the ship starts to get too hot and potentially overheat. It's worth mentioning that while each of the roles are unique and kind of designed to be played by their specific classes, that's not required. A pilot can get out of his pilot seat and go and perform any of the other actions aboard the ship, but it's been very cleverly designed to make it quite inefficient to do that, and way more efficient to have individual people doing each one of the roles. Now while this is a bit of a negative if you're trying to play on your own, this is very much a positive when you're playing as a group, because it does make each role feel like it's truly needed and feel like you truly have a purpose. Another way in which you can make yourself more effective in combat or in exploration, aside from having a good crew and upgrading their talents, is by upgrading the ship itself. There is a pretty detailed ship upgrade system in the game that reminds me quite a lot of something like Freelancer, in that you will get loot from combat, you will find loot when you go out and board other ships or when you go down onto a planet, and that loot can either be equipped to the ship you're flying, or you can trade it at trade stations and try and upgrade yourself in other ways. But there is a very, very wide range of upgrades available, and quite a lot of detail in the upgrade system, and this allows you to upgrade individual components of the ships like your thrusters, or put new weapons, new turrets on, both by increasing how efficient the ones you have are, or by switching them out completely. I don't want lasers anymore, now I want railguns. On top of that, you can also get these virus-style consumables that can be beamed aboard the enemy ship to have some negative impact. For example, disable their thrusters or disable their weaponry for a short period of time. And equally, you also have consumables you can use on your own end to try and boost things temporarily. For example, a greater shield regen for a short period of time. And one thing I touched on there but didn't talk about a huge amount is there is also quite a strong first-person aspect to this. So on top of being a first-person member of the ship's crew and running around the ship performing certain tasks, there is also a sort of first-person shooter combat mechanic in this, where you can board enemy ships, you can beam down to planets or to stations, and more importantly, you can get boarded yourself. So you will come across hostile ships that have a crew on them that matches yours, and they will attempt to respond in a realistic way. So you will have people board you while they continue to fight, or you can go and board them. Now so far I've only played about 4 hours of Pulsar just to give it a quick try before I talked to you a bit and showed you guys what the game was about. Done quite a bit of stuff with a 3-man crew and a 4-man crew and had a lot of fun. There's some very cool elements to this game, especially once you get into combat, once things start getting hectic and it starts really mattering how your crew operates together. Communication is a massive part of this game. You have no idea as a pilot what's going on elsewhere on your ship, and you need other people to be helping you out. You need other people to be filling those roles in at the right time. Equally, you have no idea as the engineer what exactly is going to be required of you from outside the ship, because you're probably back in engineering, busy putting out fires and repairing stuff. And so all of this leads to some pretty hectic fights and some pretty hectic encounters. The only thing I will say as far as a negative perspective to this is it does mean that in order to truly enjoy the game, you need a group of people to play with. This is not a game you're going to have a lot of fun with when you're playing solo. You can add the bots crews in, but it just misses something at that point. Part of the enjoyment and part of the hectic nature of the game comes from the fact that you're trying to communicate and trying to keep on top of it with a bunch of other players, not a bunch of bots that are loosely following your commands but are quite hard to interact with. Now, as I'm recording this video, they've just released quite a big pre-beta update, which adds a whole bunch of new functionality into the game, stuff like missions, enemy sector commanders, more ships for you to go out and find. Because at the moment, of course, this is an alpha game, so this is a game where, while it's pretty well playable, there's some content missing and a lot of content planned for the future. I've also only really played with one of the 3 ships that you have available to start off with, and I do know that it's possible to capture and board other ships later on in the game that aren't available to begin with, so I know there's a lot more already there that I haven't seen yet. And hopefully I'll be able to bring some update videos as the game progresses, giving an idea both of what they're adding into the game, but also what more I've found. Because as an exploration game, obviously you don't find everything very quickly. The whole point of things is it does take a while, you've got to go out and really look. However, they have managed to make even the exploration side of things really quite fun and really quite interesting. Going out, discovering new systems, seeing what's in them, coming across huge wrecks of stations with loot and minefields. Just generally really cool experience just flying around, and all the better when you come into some combat or come across something really cool. Overall though, I feel the game's offering quite a bit of promise even at this early state. For such a small developer, the development is good, it's being done in Unity, and so you believe that the engine is going to be capable of keeping up and actually being optimized for what they hope to do. And they have been very active with the community, both accepting community feedback and encouraging community feedback. There's recently been a hub added to the game that was designed and picked purely by the community playing the game, but also keeping the community really informed about what's going on with the progress of the game. Now the game is currently $25 and available directly from their site only. It does give you a Steam key, so there is the security of you do get the copy of the game on Steam as well. And if it's interested you at all, the link to all of that information is down in the video description just down below. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. It was just a quick look at Pulsar. There's a lot more to come, and hopefully I'll be covering a lot more of it in the future. If you did like it, please hit like, please hit subscribe, really helps me and the channel out. And otherwise, I'll catch you next time.